All right, good to see you all in the room. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, I told everybody a couple nights ago, was it last night? I think it was last night, that I would talk about Graceland, and about seeing Graceland, people seeing Graceland, and what Graceland about, and all that stuff. And Elvis is Graceland, however you want to look at it, basically, as Elvis would say, basically, Graceland was Elvis's home. That's where he felt most comfortable. And so it's not unusual that they would make it into a museum to honor the greatest entertainer that ever lived, Elvis Presley. Because that's where he felt most comfortable, and that's where I think the fans feel most comfortable going to see or feel like they're closest to Elvis. And a lot of people have asked, what do you see when you're at Graceland? Now, to be honest with you, I haven't actually been at Graceland in about 20 years. I was there quite a lot before that, and when Elvis was around, it was different. It's completely different now. I could speak on Graceland the way it was, and that's kind of how I like to talk about the room. The real Elvis, not the urban legend stuff. So basically, Graceland, I do know a lot about what's going on now. I've kept up with stuff and all that, but Graceland now, if you go there, you'll go on a tour of Graceland, the house. And the guy from Full House, John Stamos, he does you'll put a headphones on and he talks. He will give you the tour. He's your tour guide in your headphones. And because he's a big fan of Elvis, John Stamos. Even on the show that they did, he would do Elvis impersonation sometimes. But if you put the headphones on, he'll talk about different things in Graceland. When I was there, when they finally did open it up to the public and I went back, there was tour guides. They don't have tour guides like that no more. And they let you in very little of the house other than the bottom area. They're a little more free now, but you don't get to see Elvis's private quarters. Upstairs was where Elvis's domain was. When you went to Graceland, that's where Elvis was. He was upstairs. The boys were downstairs in the living room with the long couch. You go to Graceland, this couch is like astronomically long. They would hang out down there. They'd hang out in the jungle room. They'd hang out in the front dining area. They'd hang out in the back where Elvis used to have his slot car racing and stuff. And back when, in the 60s when he opened that up to slot car racing and stuff like that. And later they put trophies in there and stuff like that. But upstairs they don't let you tour where Elvis passed away, where Elvis slept and all that. There's pictures on YouTube and stuff like that. You can see what it looked like. Shag carpeting, he had a big round bed, a big bed. Not necessarily round, but it was big. And, he had very little light coming in that room. The walls had, they were padded and stuff like that. It was a sleeping domain. Elvis had different hours. He didn't stay up in the daytime, and he would sleep in the daytime, and he would go out at night. And I think that worked perfectly for him because people would have come up to him and not let him do what he needed to do. That's why nighttime was good for him. But most of the windows in Graceland in his room and where he lived was covered. You didn't see no light coming in the room. And of course, it's the 70s, guys. It's the mid 70s. There's shag carpeting. It's different. And think about you guys. If you guys opened up your house from 1977, as it was in 77, God help us all. The kind of wallpaper you'd have, the shag carpeting you'd have, the yellow cabinets in your kitchen, and the linoleum that would be all different colors and stuff like that. It would be crazy. It's just plain crazy. But as far as now, the tour now, it's unbelievable, guys. I said like 6 or 7 years ago, I think I was recording, I said 6 or 7 years ago, that the plan for Graceland was to become almost like Walt Disney World without the rides, except for Elvis stuff. Remember, now, that's exactly what they're doing. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, all these phases they're doing. I mean, the Welcome Center now is unbelievable. When I was there after, Elvis had passed, after when I went back, all they had done is they bought like some of the strip mall, the little stores across the street from Graceland. Because at one time, Graceland was like out in the middle of nowhere. It was like out in the middle of the farm area. Because originally Graceland was a farm. It was a 500-acre farm that the Toof family had. T-O-O-F, Toof. Toof family owned back in the 1860s, 1870s. And it was a farm back then. And even when Elvis had it, it was more like a farm area. There wasn't a lot of houses and stuff around it. But obviously as time went on and Elvis was there, he was there for 20 years, it grew, it changed, and stuff grew up around it, stores, little stores. There was a plaza across the street. When they opened it up to the public, all those plaza stores, all those little stores, those mom and pop stores, they started selling Elvis memorabilia. There was one of the bigger stores opened up is the Welcome Center. And that's basically what happened in like 1982 when Priscilla opened up the house. However, if you go there now, it's funny, I look back on it, and somewhere in this house I have from 1982, I have one of the original maps of the area, and it says future home of the hotel for Elvis, Elvis Hotel, future home of this, and as a kid I was laughing because I'm like, man, I don't know about all this, it'd be great to have a hotel there, but I don't know if it's ever going to be made, future hotel, hotel and stuff. But if you go there now, the Welcome Center is just unbelievable. I mean, it's like 100,000 square feet. I think it's like 140,000 square feet of Welcome Center, of restaurants, of meeting stuff. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And, then you have the Elvis Hotel. You have Heartbreak Hotel. Guys, it's close to being like Walt Disney World without, the rides. It's Elvis Walt Disney World Memphis style, But, I was going to give you a little history about the house itself, too. Elvis bought the house in 1957. He really did. He bought the house in 1957. And it was funny because the YMCA had put a bid out there to sell the house. So it's kind of cool that Elvis ended up buying a house that was a church, and Ruth Moore, who owned the house, was trying to sell it. And this is 1957, early in the year, and she has it up for sale, and she's putting bids out. And one of the bids was for the YMCA. They bid $40,000 to buy the mansion. The mansion was built in 1939, and it's mostly of, it's a Greek revival mansion, obviously with the big pillars and all that, and it has Tennessee limestone on it, and it's beautiful. If you guys ain't been there, it's beautiful. It's got two big lions by the stairs. Elvis seen the lions down the road. They weren't at Graceland when he bought it, just so you know. They were somewhere else. He bought them and put them there. But the house itself, is unbelievable. And the YMCA put $40,000 bid on it. Now, mind you, $40,000 was what the highest bid was at the time. Elvis came in, seen the house, and he said, "I'll give you $100,000 plus for it." And they ended up settling on $102,500 on the house for Graceland. That's less than I paid for my house. I mean, that's just to me, that's just ungodly to own Graceland. I mean, we pay more for our houses now than he paid for that. But at the time, that was a ton of money. So it was $102,500, and he outbid the YMCA. I'm sure Elvis was not happy that he had to outbid the YMCA because he was all about the kids and stuff. But like I said, originally the house sat on 500 acres, and what they ended up doing is they sold the house, and 13.75 acres, to be exact, is what Elvis purchased. 13.75 acres. He didn't get all that acreage. He got 13.5. He didn't need all that. I mean, he had enough room to run with his horses and his son, you know, all the horses that he bought and stuff at the house. It was funny because, you know, when he originally came in, they ended up selling off all the different acreage, and he said, I just need that. What's the house cost if I just buy, you know, a little less acreage and just Graceland, you know? So that's what ended up happening. I'm sorry, guys. When he bought the house, it was just a little over 10,200 and some square feet. It was like 5 bedrooms, like 5 bathrooms. And it was 23 rooms, different rooms. Now, as Elvis lived there and resided at Graceland and all that, he ended up making it a little over 17,500 square feet. And some, you know, depending on who you talk to, it's close to 18,000, but it was 7,500 and some change. So he added like, you know, 7,000 square feet to the house. And, you know, obviously if you go to Graceland, you're going to find out when you walk in the house, okay, picture this, you walk in Graceland, the big pillars, beautiful house. I mean, honestly, it's as beautiful as the White House, if not some more. To me, it's more because it's Elvis's. But you walk in, it looks like what you expect. You know, you walk in, you're like in awe because it's Elvis's house. But you walk in, you look up, there's a staircase, beautiful staircase going up to where Elvis lived, you know, his private quarters, 2nd floor. But to your left is a big dining room. Big dining room, beautiful table, you know, he's got this beautiful furniture. To your right is a big living room, a big couch, beautiful stained glass windows that lead to another room where there's a beautiful piano where Elvis would play. It's just plumb ass beautiful, guys. I'm just telling you, I walked in the first time I ever was at Graceland. I walked in and I'm like in awe because it's just exactly what you would think the king of rock and roll, the greatest entertainer that ever lived, would own. I mean, he's more, at the time he was, I mean, you're talking about a guy that took a gun into the White House and walked up to the president and handed him a loaded pistol. The most powerful man in the world. It's exactly what you expect him to own. Okay? To me, he was more powerful than president. He was more powerful than anybody. He was unbelievable. And you walk down the hallway. Now, when I was there, you couldn't go in this room during the tours. You know, the tours was closed. I was there at the time when the tours were, you know, well, the times when the tours were there, you know, afterwards. I was there, and there was a room off behind, I'm trying to describe it, behind the living room. And that room was a kitchen, a living room. I mean, it was a whole living quarters. And that's where his grandmother was. Elvis's grandmother lived right there. I mean, she had her own apartment in Graceland, basically. And at the time, you couldn't go in there. But my understanding is Graceland has now opened up that. You can go into where her kitchen was and where her living room was, and you can visit inside there. And then if you go down the hallway, you can go to the jungle room. And you can check out the jungle room. And in the jungle room, and this is what made it so awesome, is it had shag carpeting on the ceiling. It had shag carpeting on the floor. On the other wall, it had rock wall. And on the rock wall, it had a waterfall. Now, of course, the waterfall later at some later time was leaking on the floor, so he had to turn the water off. But it did have a waterfall. But the acoustics in this room was unbelievable. And that's why Elvis recorded a lot of his songs later on in his life in that room. Did you have a question?
No, sir.
Okay, you just stand there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you'll hear a little bit. There's something going on back there. Whatever. I'm hearing myself twice. If you go down into the lower area of the house, he had a room on the wall. Now this is crazy. He had 3 TVs. That's so he could watch 3, 5, and 8 at the same time. All the news. That was something he learned from LBJ. 3, 5, and 8 on the wall. And there was a little bar, yellow and black balls, and on the end table there was this monkey, little white monkey. Now it wasn't Scatter, it wasn't its real monkey Scatter, it was a monkey. And to the right you'll find a pool room, and on the pool room there's thousands and thousands. I think it's like 3,000 yards, some crazy amount. It's either 300 or 3,000. It's some crazy amount. It's just an astronomical amount of yardage of fabric on the walls that was, I can't even describe it. It was like, what do you call that?
It's like woven.
Well, it's curved. It's like it's
like
not
a
just
curtain when you hang it on the wall. How it waves.
Yeah, it's wavy, and that's exactly it. And the pool room, and if you look at the pool table, they usually put a pool cue over it, or they put a ball over it. But Elvis ripped the felt on the pool table, and he was trying to do a trick shot. He was trying to show off to the guys, and he ripped the pool table, basically. So you'll see. Obviously, things have changed a little bit. I'm going to wrap it up in a little bit. Things have changed a little bit, though, because at the time I was there, early on, after it had first opened to the public, I tell stories about how I was there when Vester showed me around before they opened it, but this is when I was there after they opened it to the public. The cars hadn't been refurbished at the time. They hadn't been refurbished. They were just as they were when Elvis was around. Gladys's Cadillac was there, but it had the nicks, and they had the little dents, and they had the little, it wasn't perfect. The Jeep from the Hawaii movie, Blue Hawaii, was there, but it was tattered and it was worn, and it was been out in the elements. And a couple of his vehicles. Now the Stutz Blackhawk under the awning, and it was in good shape. You could see the Stutz, the one that Elvis's last picture of him alive was taken in. It was sitting there. But since then, they have sent the cars out, had them completely refurbished. They all look like brand new. There's an Elvis car museum at Graceland now. They have done exactly what I was hoping they would ultimately do. They've taken everything serious. They understand what Elvis is all about, to you, to me, and every other fan in the world. They've put, in a small capsule, like his car museum, and they've made a car museum. All his cars, car museum. They've taken his house, and they've made it perfect, and it's his house. And they've taken and understood that the fans look at Elvis as like this icon, this unbelievable guy that will never be surpassed and will always be visited. I mean, I've always said 100 years from now, you'll know who Elvis Presley is. There'll still be people visiting Graceland. And they understand that the ramifications if they didn't do this. I mean, it's important to people. And that's what they've done. And it's beautiful. And guys, you need to go visit it. And I'm going to visit soon and make sure that, it's everything that I know it is, from what I've been told recently. And last but not least, I'm just trying to answer a few trivia questions I've been asked through the years. When Elvis passed away, sadly, at Graceland, at the time of his death, in his house. Now remember, this is 1977, guys. Now in 1977, I don't know about you, but my mom and dad had maybe 2 TVs in their house. The regular TV that was color, in 1977, if we were lucky, it was color. I'm trying to be honest here and think. We had a color TV that was probably 19 inches. Okay? And we had a 12-inch black and white TV in the house. 2 TVs. When Elvis passed away, he had 16 TVs. Now keep in mind, most of them he had shot before that and replaced. So he had 16 active TVs that were in his house at the time he passed away. And to me, that's just unbelievable. But before I go, and before I get off the mic, because we're going to close out, does anybody have any other questions about Graceland before I get off the mic and move on? I just thought it was important that I would talk about it because people have asked questions about Graceland. And that's a 1, that's a 2, and that's a 3. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for honoring Elvis Presley, the greatest entertainer that ever lived, the one and the only. This room is about Elvis the man. It's about Elvis the musician. And it's about Elvis the icon.